Order. And start with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, roll call of the board members, please.
Augustinelli,
Here.
Robertson,
Here.
Klein,
Here.
Ewell,
Here.
Fudge,
Here.
and D. Good.
Here.
And it's noted that Racine is absent and excused.
All right. Well, we'll start off then with item number 1 on our agenda. We have a public comment opportunity at the beginning of the meeting and at the end of the meeting. And if anybody would like to make a public comment about anything on our agenda, we have no public hearings tonight. So this would be your opportunity to comment or make any other comment. Please feel free to step to the podium and speak. Seeing no one running to the podium, we'll just go ahead and move on to our next agenda item, review and approval of the agenda and statement of any conflicts of interest.
I'll move to approve the agenda. Support.
Motion by Robinson, support by Klein. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, we'll have a vote. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Same. Motion passes. Next, we'll take a look at the minutes from our February 26, 2025 joint meeting with the Township Board. Any comments or concerns?
I'll move to support the minutes.
Support. Motion by Robertson, support by Fudge. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Same. Motion passes. With that, we'll go on to correspondence. Looks like we have a couple of items.
In your packet, you have an item, it's an announcement, a notice to inform you from the East Bay Township Planning Commission regarding an amendment to their master plan. That's an item that we'll probably consider at your April study session to review. Also on your desk is a road commission driveway permit application, and this is in regard to the Tower North application, which is later on the agenda.
All right. Thank you, John. And that will move on to reports. Molly, is there anything to report from the Township Board?
Yeah, sounds like things are moving along with the water talks with the city. And 4 projects that we had approved: Marengo, Gauthier property, Windy Hills, and the village at Garfield have been approved and they have their permits. So we're moving along.
Great. It's good to hear.
Yeah.
Any planning commissioners with anything to state? Bob, anything on Zoning Board of Appeals?
We had no meeting.
All right. Parks and Recreation Commission did not have a meeting. And was there a joint planning commission
No.
meeting? Nope. All right. Well, with that, staff report.
Mostly just what's in the packet is our report that went also to the Township Board. Summary of the projects that we've been reviewing with Planning Commission. A few administrative developments that wrapped up. We also, since this went in the packet, we've gotten a couple more applications. So keeping busy with the administrative reviews. We summarized our joint meeting. And then kind of one of my long-term projects has been a GIS database of streetlights. So we got the initial point data. There's estimated 828 streetlights between the 3 providers. So right now I was trying to put data around that. Many of those are private because they're just on, like some of the mobile home parks have contracts with those. Some are public, but are other entities. Some are through special assessment. So we're trying to just get a handle on who's paying for what is the township paying for, what do we facilitate through special assessment, things like that. So
So if I want a street light, I call you.
I'm apparently the streetlight guy now, so yeah.
I wanted to add also that recently I was appointed to the Cherry Capital Airport's zoning commission, airport zoning commission. So that'll start in April, and included on that commission is the city planning director and the East Bay Township planning director, along with other appointments from the airport authority. But we'll be developing an airport zoning ordinance which impacts all land uses within a 10-mile radius of the Cherry Capital Airport. So that, once we're done constructing that ordinance, the zoning commission dissolves. But that'll be something that will impact all of Garfield, since the entirety of Garfield is within that 10-mile radius of the airport. So,
Does that generally just have to do with the airspace?
yes, so it'll be kind of like an inverted cone. So if there's rings, as you kind of go further away from the airport, there's less requirements, but as you get closer, there are more requirements, and you'll need sign off from the airport on particularly towers and other tall structures.
Likely to be any more stringent than we're currently accustomed to?
It'll be not that I don't really know, but I just know that it's going to be one of those processes that we'll have to be aware of, and knowing that, as you know, just as we have other types of other agency reviews, that will have to be considered as part of any development review.
Great. Well, thank you for the service on that.
Yep.
All set?
That's it.
All right. Well, with that, we'll move on to unfinished business, starting with PD 2025-20, Tower North Wireless Communication Facility SUP, findings of fact.
So this is at the last action meeting in early February, Plan Commission directed staff to prepare findings of fact for this application. This is the proposed cell tower off of Zimmerman near Silver Lake Road. We've definitely had quite a few meetings to review different aspects of this proposal. I wanted to highlight just a couple pieces of information. So one of the things on your, as correspondence that was on your desk, is a driveway permit from the County Road Commission. There was some question at the last meeting on the proximity of that driveway to other driveways on Zimmerman, and its location based on just kind of visibility from the road and like sight lines. So Road Commission, as one of the other agencies, would always review driveway permits or activity in the right-of-way for any applications. It's one of those that falls under the standard, like all agency reviews must be completed before the land use permit. So, but they happen to, the applicants put forth the driveway application and completed that process ahead of this meeting. Staff also wanted to make note, we also put it in the motion, but part of the concerns around, like, potentially around traffic is perhaps mitigated by that this is intended really for authorized personnel. It's really just an access for that. We put in both in the findings and in a draft motion to actually explicitly state that the access drive shall be available for use only by the authorized personnel. But that seemed to be appropriate given the question that was raised at the last meeting, and given this information, that seemed a way to handle that. So that was one thing. The report kind of takes on, there's two aspects to the findings of fact. There's the supplemental use standards, which we kind of had taken initial looks at for wireless communication facilities, which is in section 792, and then the approval criteria for all special use permits. So 792 is one of the longest, I think it's the longest supplemental use standard. So coupled with the approval criteria, this might be the longest findings of fact that we have prepared in a report. So apologize for the length, but it is thorough in terms of going after the all of the standards. So the other thing aside from the access drive was noting some landscaping for screening. I can actually highlight on the map as well. You have to take off the zoning layer. I think, initial location of the tower was further back, so it was behind this screen, and since it is now further back from where it was to avoid the house, there is a gap in this. This is a 2024 aerial, so this is relatively recent aerial of the site. It's a little bit further back, but there is still a full landscape buffer on this part of the site. It's really just sort of filling that gap, and staff at least recommended that if additional landscape were provided to the standard just to fill that gap, that would most likely suffice for meeting landscaping requirements. And that could be something that could either be a condition or reviewed by staff, or if Plan Commission would like to see that, be interested in your thoughts on that. But otherwise, the rest of the report lays out the findings. So if anybody has any questions specifically, we also have the applicant here as well if there are any remaining questions on the application.
So, Steve, if I understand correctly, with regard to the landscaping,
Mhm.
item 9, it says, "The Planning Commission may find that this standard can be met for the following reasons."
Mhm.
And are you suggesting that we need to add an item to the second motion as a condition, indicating that,
We had put it as a draft condition number 2 in there.
I'm sorry.
Yep.
I read over,
No
right
worries.
past
yeah.
that. Okay.
It was, not at the beginning or end.
So
yeah,
that's
it is
in
number
there
2.
already,
Mhm.
and then there was an item about the height of a building.
Yes, what page is this? Sorry.
I think it was the prior, no? You said there are many conditions,
There,
or many items. Item number 5, page 7 of 13, Planning Commission may find the standard can be met, specifically noting that the ground equipment buildings need to be less than 15 feet in height.
okay. To provide an elevation sketch, just to include that in the details, okay.
And so that's adequately covered by the item number 2?
That actually should be, that should most likely be added as a condition, if you were to make that motion. We can add that language if we get to that point.
Okay, very good.
Mhm.
Planning Commission members, did anybody else have any comments, concerns?
Well, if you guys don't have any questions or anything, I'll make the motion that findings of fact for application SUP 2024-02 as presented in Planning Department Report 2025-20 and being made part of this motion be adopted.
Support. We have a motion by Robertson, support by Klein. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same. Motion passes.
I'll make the other motion that application SUP 2024-02 submitted by Tower North Development LLC for special use permit for a wireless communication facility at 2767 Zimmerman Road on a portion of parcel 05019 00100 be approved subject to the following conditions 1 through 6 as indicated in the Planning Department Report 2025-20. And the 6th condition is, you want to explain that?
Yeah. If you want to use that language, it would be updated site plans shall be provided with an elevation sketch of the ground equipment and shelter.
The second bullet point.
Yep.
Yep.
If you want to just add that as conditions X.
So that's page 7 of 13, item 5, the last bullet point.
So is that good enough for the records? So I don't,
You want to read it out for us, Steve?
Yeah, with proposed condition 6 would be updated site plan shall be provided with an elevation sketch of the ground equipment and shelter.
so to make that clear, the first 5 are in the PD report, and that is the 6th one.
And we're gonna spell out the 15 feet.
That it should be less than 15 feet in height. You could add that to,
The building height.
Equipment height, wasn't it?
The building height,
The building height.
15.
demonstrating that they are less than 15 feet in height. Okay, we can, so updated site plan shall be provided with an elevation sketch of the ground equipment and shelter to demonstrate that they are less than 15 feet in height.
Sounds good to me.
All right,
Right, Joe?
Yes.
All right.
all right.
Support.
All right, we have a motion by Robertson, support by Klein. Any further discussion? All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same. Motion passes. All right, well, with that, we will move on to our next item of business. PD 2025-21, Ollie's Bargain Outlet, CP District Site Plan Review, follow-up.
So this is an application because of the proposed additional entrance to the Grand Traverse Mall. So the precedent was set with the site plan that was done for Dunham Sports back in 2015. There was some discussion when this was introduced at the meeting last month regarding maybe an alternate location to that. There is representation here from Brookfield Properties, which is the owners of the Grand Traverse Mall. Staff did have a conference call with them, and they do have some information. Eddie, if you want, you're welcome to come up, and I thought it'd be most appropriate to hear from them in terms of the response to the idea of an alternate location for the Ollie's Bargain Outlet, which is proposed in the former TJ Maxx.
Good evening, everybody. Appreciate you guys taking the time. The entrance that we had proposed with Ollie's, and we've been working on this deal with them for about 2 years now, was to close off the interior space of the center and create an exterior. And part of the reason for that was to have a dedicated outside entrance for them. Part of the discussion was the type of product that they carried as well. And that the one of the biggest issues we had, and this was a point of discussion at your last meeting, was the carts. And it's not just the shopping carts, but they, like Costco and other retailers like them, also carry large flatbeds because they carry larger items such as carpets and sometimes pieces of furniture, or as you brought up, kayaks and those types of things. So they need a larger transportation in order to get to the vehicles. And the last thing that we wanted was those particular things to actually be rolled through the center. They can be incredibly dangerous, especially with kids. They see those things, they want to jump on them, they want to play on them. Those things start to slide, and then there's some problems with it. The other thing we looked at, if you want to flip to the next slide, please. Thank you, Mr. Hannon, I appreciate it. Wanted to just show you guys, can you guys hear me off mic?
Yes.
Okay.
Or no, no.
Well, actually, we need, because you're being on TV, you need
You're
to be
on
at the
TV.
microphone so he can record. Sorry.
It's okay.
Thank you.
On this, I wanted to show you guys a site plan of what we actually own on the property. Obviously, you know that we don't own the Macy's box, which was recently sold. That will be redeveloped by that particular landlord. We're talking to them, but we're not sure exactly what the plan is for that. We do own, however, that ex-TJ Maxx box, which is now vacant. Okay, next slide. This is the portion of the center. As you can see, typically when we close, if we have to close off an entrance, and this does happen periodically, whether it be Costco, whether it be Pet Supplies Plus that we bring into a center, they want a dedicated entrance. And the reason for that is theft. You know, it's more difficult to manage two different entrances. I do realize that department stores have multiple entrances, you know, but for a particular tenant like this, one is about as enough as they can handle. Now, this particular instance, this corridor, there's only two tenants that border on that side, each side of that corridor. If it was a traditional corridor, let's say like going down to, you know, Target or one of the others, there are multiple tenants that would be affected by this closure. We have to figure out how to activate that common area space to make sure that we continue the traffic down that area. In this particular entrance, it's only two tenants. And as you can see, each of those tenants has an entrance in a different location. So GNC has it more towards the common area there, and Famous Footwear has it a little more towards that corridor. What we would do when we close this entrance is we would have the Ollie's team put in wet utilities within that wall there, so we can activate that open space, whether it be with the kiosk as proposed, we could have coffee, some kind of activation. It could turn into event space, where maybe we have something come through, an art fair, some kind of wine tasting or something to be able to activate the space as well. Another option that we might look at is to actually enclose that space and create another inline space. We would still keep that egress that goes out through there. We would have Famous Footwear or whoever is in that space move their entrance over to the more common area. Now we've created an additional space within the shopping center. And the other option is that we amalgamate the space. So we would make one larger space for a larger footprint for another tenant, whether that be Famous Footwear wants to expand, or we have another tenant come into the space. So there's various options that we have. We don't have one exactly at the moment, but it's something that we always propose to do before we make a decision to close off an entrance into the shopping center. Next one. Okay, so this is where Ollie's is proposing their entrance be. It was, there's the mall entrance that you guys noted, and then it was also proposed that maybe they move it over to the side. The issue is there's no visibility over on that side for a customer presence. Next slide up. So this is the backside of this particular space that we want to open up. You can see the loading dock, you can see the exit, egress exit next to that loading dock. The next slide shows what we were proposing before we even talked to Ollie's. We were just looking at the building, coming up with different ideas of what we could do to activate that space, because we knew 2.5, 3 years out that TJ Maxx was looking to possibly leave the center. So we short leased the TJ Maxx lease until they found a new location and we had an opportunity to find some other people to take the space. So we had proposed maybe a market, some other different options, but we were looking at what that would actually look like on that side of the building. So the next slide shows what Ollie's proposes. So this particular endeavor actually does not affect any of the landscaping that's already there, the sidewalk that's already there. All of that remains. So they propose an entrance that's closer to where that loading dock is, with the right pitch for ADA ramping to come down out into the exterior of the mall. So that way we're not affecting anything else except that one little portion between the landscaping sidewalk area and the loading dock there. All the trees, landscaping will remain, but they will all be refurbished as required by the agreement with Ollie's. So this is the proposed layout for Ollie's right now, and as you can see, every square inch of this space is filled with racks and merchandise, and especially the perimeter walls. So this particular layout doesn't even allow for an additional entrance in or out of the space. There's a little small section, if you can look on the bottom right, that is where the entrance is. Those are the cash wraps just to the left of them. What the committee proposed was up there on the top left. Now, if they were to look at something like that, they felt it would be better on the bottom left, but the problem with that is the way that the road runs through there, it would require us to push all of that sidewalk, all that landscaping out, which would then require us to reconfigure the parking area over there. So as you can see, all of that over there, where the arrow is where they would say if we had to do it, it would be on the side. They really don't want to do that. And over there, you can see that we'd have to push all that out to make that work. That would require a heavy amount of site work. That would require a lot of planning, engineering. We'd have to redo that entire parking area over there. Now, when I was over there today, that whole corner there is giant piles of snow. So that whole thing would have to be reconfigured as well to make sure that all of that is prevented if we were to have to put an entrance over there. The other thing it does is it bunches up a little bit too much from a design perspective. It puts too much traffic and too much pressure right in that corner over there. And again, there's no visibility for customers to see anything on that corner right in there. It's kind of tucked away. Next one. So as you can see from this view, that's the proposed entrance from the commission. There's the entrance. There's the shopping carts that were noted in the last meeting. And then next slide, we scroll over to the right. You can see that all of that would have to be removed. All that would have to be pushed out over into the parking area, which would change the configuration of the center over in that area.
But you're saying so you could get visibility of your entrance and see your sign and everything. It wouldn't have to be moved, it just would be a preference to have it moved, right?
Well, for them, they would really, really want it to be on the backside of the property as opposed to over that corner. And part of the reason, on the next slide, is this would be more of a dedicated parking area for them, so that people that just want to go in and get out have an area that they can do that, and they wouldn't have to fight with all the other cars that are over on that vicinity, especially if they're bringing those big ticket items. And even when I drove through today, that part of the parking area is nowhere near as populated as the over the area that's over by the entrance there, and over also in front of Dunham's on the backside. So wherever those main entrances are where the cars tend to cluster. I know during the holidays it doesn't matter, got to find a space when you got to find a space. But, traditionally throughout the year, this is kind of the parking area that they consider more dedicated for their space. This is an area that we will also resurface prior to their opening as well. Okay, so this is actually the back side of the mall right there, as you can see on the top. From there, there's the Ollie space. The TJ Maxx sign is on the side of the building right now. They're proposing their signage on the back side. Okay? Across from that is land that we own that's not developed at this point. There's no visibility from anywhere to be able to see that from that area. That is the main road that comes into that side of the mall. And at different points on the next couple of slides, I've looked at the visibility from these particular locations, and I could not see much of anything. Next one. So here's 4 different points from those 4 different locations that I marked with an arrow. There's slight visibility that you can see, but I couldn't even make out that was TJ Maxx signage from that. Now, signage has obviously since been removed, but this is from the same view from Google Street View that you guys utilize just as much as we do to be able to look when we're looking at sites and site planning. So this is when you finally come around that loop, this is where you would actually see the backside of this space.
I'm hearing you really can't see any signage on this building anyways.
No, but there was an issue as to the visibility in front, like if there was going to be a stack of kayaks or other things that were going to be out, is that something that would be visible and do people want to see that?
John, do they have the ability to put materials out outdoors?
No.
An outdoor display?
No, I mean, that's not part of the application.
Okay.
So,
And there's no space on that platform or on the ramping down to be able to put anything on the outside of the property. And that's not something that they were planning to do, and that's not something that we want them to do either, is to be able to do that. But when you come around the corner, this is what you're going to see. This is what they're looking for, is this kind of a presence when you're finally on the parking area. Dunham's you can't see from the backside either. I mean, they're in an even worse spot because there's nothing that comes right up to them from that side of the center. You have to drive all the way around the ring road in order to get to them. But that presence and having that fixture, that storefront in front and that signage is important to them when people are driving because they become visible. And this is where Ollie's wants to put theirs. So again, just pointing out, this is where TJ Maxx has their sign. Ollie's would have it on the other side. And just go back to the view here, and that was, it's okay.
Which one? This one?
Next one, actually.
The overall,
Yeah,
this
I
one?
just wanted to bring this back up. So
Okay.
this is what what they propose for this is to have that entrance right there. Would not affect anything that's already built. We wouldn't have to do any other kind of structural site planning and engineering to have this happen in order to be able to put that over on that side of the building.
Does the scale of that sign right there meet the current standards?
No, and that would not be approved.
Okay, so that's too big.
That's
It
way
wouldn't-
too
it
big.
wouldn't be that
they
big.
would be required to go through a sign
Exactly.
application.
But it wouldn't be,
It'd be 100, I believe 100.
100 square feet?
100 square feet is the max size. for
that
a building.
TJ Maxx one that was on the side before, that was too large also. Would it be that big, or would it even
It'd be
smaller?
100 either way.
Don't know what that was.
That's the max in the ordinance.
Yeah, they're required to submit a completely separate sign submittal to
Yeah.
the planning commission here. That has to go through us first so that we can mark it up and let them know our thoughts, and then that would come.
Well,
to the
actually,
commission.
it doesn't need to go to, it would go to the zoning administrator.
Sign permit just be administrative.
Yeah, it'd be administrative.
Molly?
Yes.
Yeah, I'm just, do you have a dimension on how big the sidewalk is in front of all the ramps and all that? Or you're just gonna drive your car up there? the front, and there's no sidewalk?
No, the
what do you-
the purpose is not to have cars pull up. It does happen, and it will happen, and it happens at Target, and it happens at JCPenney as well. But the goal is not to have that happen, but to have them push all that merchandise out of the parking area over to where their car is.
There's, well, to me, there's really, I mean, with Target, you got a big space.
Sure. This is not a
You
big space.
don't have a space
No.
here, so you're bringing your flatbed of whatever it is you're buying, mattresses, and you're setting it there, and then you're pulling your car up to get in there. There's really no loading area or any spot to have that stuff sitting there. It's,
No, because
sidewalk
the-
is right there.
Correct. The goal is to have them continue on that path out into the parking area to where their car is, as opposed to just pulling their car out. Now, can't prevent them from doing that. That's going to happen, like I said, and it happens at, at the department stores as well, where people pull up and people move their merchandise, and then they leave the flatbed or the carts out there, and then they have a dedicated person that comes and collects that. There was also one thing that they did not include in their planned submission, because they haven't put together a full submission for review, is they still have to do a site plan of the parking area showing where the corrals are going to be located, where the ADA stalls are going to be located as well. So that still has to be put together and submitted as well. That was not included in there.
Molly, if I may add to your point, what's shown here, and I get what you're saying, I mean, you step off that last step,
You're
and you're
there.
on the asphalt. You're in the roadway. And it seems appropriate to me that we might ask that they extend the curb line down and add concrete so that the context, I mean, basically you're tacking an entrance onto a wall and doing very little in the parking lot. You're already suggesting, are you gonna mill and resurface the parking lot, or?
That portion of it,
Okay,
yes.
so
Yeah.
there's a significant investment there. I might add to Molly's point by suggesting that in addition to this work that you're proposing, you bring the curb line down and wrap it around to the end of your ADA ramping system, so that you actually have a context created with a concrete sidewalk landing that separates so that you don't have somebody pulling their car up right to that
Oh,
bottom step.
absolutely. I agree with that assessment, and thank you for clarifying. Again, what they submitted was a preliminary look at what they were planning to do, and really was focused on having an entrance over there. And so all the details in order to get all of those things taken care of, including a new site plan, still have to be drawn, they have to be submitted, they have to be reviewed, and then obviously, have the opportunity for comments from the commission to be going back, and then for them to make corrections or any changes that are required of that as well. So these are not final. That's something I can easily call and have them add to it in their submittal, and that's a great call out. Again, the goal is to kind of have them not, just leave stuff up in the front, but continue moving down the path. But the other thing, if you notice that drawing does not indicate, it doesn't show any ramping from that sidewalk down into the parking area either. Otherwise, you're dropping right off the curb with those carts.
Right, you'd have to,
Sure.
again, it's creating the context with the curbing and then ramping that down appropriately. John, can you remind me of that site plan? Does that come back before the planning commission, or would that simply be a staff review?
Well, probably would make it easiest is to provide it as a conditions. So maybe we would just clarify the suggested motion here to include an updated site plan with parking lot and curbing improvements. And we can have staff review that so that it doesn't have to come back to the planning commission. If for some reason we feel it doesn't meet the expectations of the planning commission, we can always bring it back. But I think that could be a conditional approval, just have staff review it. But
Okay.
we would want to add that in as an addition, an added condition on your motion, should you want to go that route.
And Mr. Syke and Mr. Hannon have been very, very good to work with, very, very considerate in this, and we would definitely work together. I, as overseeing this particular project, would work together with them to ensure that, all the issues that are brought up by this commission are considered and met.
Molly, did you have more thoughts?
Well, personally, I would like to see a little more sidewalk. They've got sidewalk all along there, but you're not using that sidewalk if you put in that ramping system and stair system. There's nothing left. It's very narrow.
Yeah, well, the sidewalk currently doesn't serve anything except to be able to get to the egress door, because on the left side of the building is all landscaping and dirt, and the right side doesn't wrap completely around to that area where the trash enclosures are currently. So if it's a request to extend and push out that sidewalk a little more, that's easily added to the request on the plans.
Yeah, okay, just safety-wise.
I
didn't like coming that
completely agree
close.
with you.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Just so I understand, so you're talking, Steve, if you could scroll back to where the
Yeah,
kind
this
of
side.
proposed entrance, yeah. So there's an area there that's right now, it looked like it was been previously striped. And so what you're talking about when you're talking about curbing is just to ensure that there's more definition along the, that stretch for where the drive is at, to ensure that it's kind of more defined. Is that what you're talking about?
More depth?
If you would switch to the,
Yeah.
and Molly, let
Design.
me know if I'm, right now, what I'm seeing in that figure is that if I was exiting the door, walking down the steps, I get to the bottom step, I'm on asphalt. And the context of that is that a car, it wouldn't, but a car could drive right up to the bottom of the stairs.
Right.
And what I'm suggesting is that at least for a space of, I don't know, 5 or 10 feet beyond that, and I'd like to see some creativity with the plan, but have it not just painted, but have an actual contextualized entrance. Maybe you need more steps. Maybe that concrete sidewalk needs to be flush with the asphalt in order for it to work. But it just says to somebody driving by, this is the pedestrian area in front of the store, not a space for me to pull.
Oh, understood.
Pull up.
I think the goal is not to just all of a sudden have an area that all of a sudden drops to the asphalt and to the
You're in the
parking,
street.
but to have a section that is flat first, that's even, because once you come down that ramp, if you have a ramp down to the asphalt, it's just going to keep going, and you're going to lose control. So it's better for us to go ahead and create a little more depth on the sidewalk area and what you're speaking to, and then start to ramp down for those that are going to take and continue down the pathway into the parking lot.
I don't think that sidewalk is 20 feet, and if you've got 3 switchbacks on that ramp, let's say they're 4 feet, they might be more than that, you got 16 feet, so you've got not very much down at the bottom of that ramp.
Well, one of the
I'm not
things
sure if
that's,
it's to scale on there, but there
one of the
wouldn't be.
things that we're doing is slightly in front of where the loading dock is, and if you can go back to the site plan a little bit.
All right, which one's got the site?
Whoop, right about there.
Or the, let's see. The floor plan or the?
No, the site plan of the property in front with the area where we highlighted the parking in yellow, so it's further
Okay.
down.
Oh,
Sorry.
it was further down, sorry about that.
No, all good.
Okay, here we go.
It's not your deck, it's mine. You don't know it as well as I do.
These were,
One just up above that,
oh, the,
a little bit farther. Next one up.
this one.
There you go.
Oh,
Thank you
the
so
photo
much.
with the yellow.
Appreciate it.
Oh, I was
Yes.
looking for like
Oh.
a site plan diagram,
So
yeah.
on the
Okay.
top left near that corner, you can see there's an island with a parking lot. And part of the plan, part of what we're doing as landlord is to remove that right there. So there's an opportunity, since we're removing that already, and we're going to replace the light in another location, is to push that sidewalk area out
Yep.
and that area to get more depth, because we're already going to be doing that portion of the parking area. And that's exactly where that ramping is, and it won't interfere with the next island over. And if it does, we'll figure out site-wise and engineering-wise how to relocate that one as well. But that's the area that you guys are proposing, and that was already going to be removed, so that gives an opportunity to push that out and to meet your requirements.
So when you revisit the plan, you'll just make sure that traffic flows down through there, and we've got some space at the bottom of those ramps, and that's good.
Okay. Pat, Joe, any thoughts?
I'm okay with it.
Kara?
I'm okay with it.
Bob?
Said,
I only want to speak up, and my main concern, which you probably saw in the video previously, is the domino turning inside out of our
Sure.
mall.
Can I speak to that?
Sure,
That's
please.
not going to happen, at least right now, not now with us. So
Okay.
when Brookfield works on a redevelopment, it takes us about 10 years minimum to get to the point to where we start, submitting plans for review. But during that time, we have site planners, we have an entire development arm that's looking at it. Is this possible? We look at our easements, we look at our agreements, we start talking to the commission, we start talking to the different entities, within the township or within the municipality, if you will, depending on where we're at. Because part of that is we're not just looking to redevelop the center, we also redeveloping something that's for the community. And our goal is to do it in partnership with everyone. We do not bulldoze anything that we do. And we work everywhere from smaller townships. I've worked on projects in Manhattan, and we operate the same way. We want to have that partnership, otherwise it doesn't work for us. We don't want to be the aggressors, and we want to have people on our side as much as we want to be on the side of everyone else. So in this regards, we've got about 15 leases that are up for renewal over the next 3 years. So if we were to start looking at flipping this inside out, we're going to have to renegotiate all those leases. We're going to have to start moving tenants around to be able to do that kind of a thing. Now, to be honest, we have gone through a lot of our centers and we've reactivated the outside, but we usually present that to the council to get an idea and get some feedback on what they think. And part of that is to make the presence more exciting. So we might do that on the front side of this property at some point, bring in more restaurants, have some outdoor seating that kind of brings in an interest. And then that also pulls more traffic into the center. This center, we are not looking to flip. And we typically do not try and flip our centers. We try and add more value to them rather than turning them inside out. It is costly, especially a center this size. There's so much that goes involved into that, and it can cost billions to do something like that. So if we were to do something here, our strategy would be to do more outside activation, but not to flip the center out inside out. I know that was an issue that was brought up regarding Cherryland. That's not what we're planning here, and you have my word on that. And that was included in the letter along with the shopping carts.
And honestly, it's not so much that I'm concerned about the flipping or any effort that you might make to
Sure.
revitalize. What I like that you just said was that you would approach it with a holistic plan.
Yes.
And my concern was we start flipping one, and then you've got every few tenants here and there wanting to flip, and then you lose control or at least there's an interest in, well, we got to make that tenant happy. All I want is assurances that there's going to be a plan, and it sounds like
Absolutely.
you have that intent.
Absolutely. This particular one is a one-off, and every now and then we have a one-off. We may have another one-off down the way, and we will do the same thing. It will come to the commission, to review. But as far as doing this en masse, no. That is not a goal here to do at all. And any changes that we do on the property, we would enlist this organization as well to be a part of what we're doing.
And I guess one more issue I'd like to raise then.
Yeah.
This commission's been discussing with our staff for several years now, connectivity between your property and the hotel and Chick-fil-A all the way down to Lowe's. And staff has been working diligently to get the other property owners on board with that. As far as activation and connectivity goes, it seems like a great opportunity to pursue that right now because, I saw your different approaches to the building and the lack of visibility of both the old sign for TJ Maxx and the new sign for Ollie's. But I would say that approaching from Lowe's, you would have a direct shot at Ollie's sign if you would be willing to work with the other landowners that staff has already lined up. How could that be part of this project?
Happy to have a conversation, have a discussion with it. That's a different person that would be working on something like that. I'm happy to connect whoever that is to that person to start that conversation, because it also involves a lot of how we would adapt, our property as it is, as well as the other property that's across the way on the backside that we own that's, completely undeveloped. So that, it looks like with the goal of that would be tapping into a portion of that land as well in order to make that happen. If I'm looking in the right direction.
Yeah, Brookfield has about I think it's about a 3-acre parcel there at the end of Day Drive. But so when and I don't want to get into the weeds on this, but when Lowe's went in, they were required to put a stub road down to essentially that property that Brookfield has with
The
the
dead ends.
goal of connecting it down to the mall. In our conversations with the operator at Chick-fil-A, they're really interested in trying to get a connection, and the new hotel that just went in, obviously to get better access to the backup. There's a traffic signal at the outlet there for Lowe's, so it does create a great opportunity to add in some, more customers passing through that particular area. It certainly would afford some greater exposure for Ollie's as well.
Oh, happy to have the conversation, but
Yep.
just to be frank and honest again, it takes us a long time to move from point A to point B when it comes to these things, because it takes a lot of planning and several people. I mean, we're a corporation, so it's a lot of people that need to sign off on all this stuff. It's not quick. But the conversation is definitely something that we could start now. I'll be happy to provide, should I provide?
You can-
Yeah.
Is
Send it
the-
to me.
The
Yeah.
gentleman's name, is it Elon, perhaps?
Eli, no.
One can be
no,
hopeful
nice
that
try
we can
there.
move fast that way.
The developer
me,
of the
John.
property is actually, his name is Alex Eppel. Okay.
Remind me, John, I believe in our recent master planning efforts, we changed some of the master planning for that particular parcel with hopes of activating. Am I recalling that correctly?
Here's future land use. Yes, we did.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to point out that this planning commission made changes to the parcel that you own in our master plan, which would hopefully make it more enticing to engage in some planning on your part,
Awesome.
to, pursue that connectivity.
Sure.
Yeah, it's identified in that orange portion. The back portion is wetlands, so that's why it's kind of has that shape to it. But we thought back there's some surplus land that Lowe's has that has a potential to maybe be some multifamily back there, or some other type of complementary use that could work well with the adjacent commercial
There's
properties.
a lot of great potential for that whole area. Absolutely.
Well, I think I'm done talking.
Kara,
So-
Kara.
Kara?
I just wanted to go back to what you said earlier. I appreciated and related to the comments that what I was looking for when we had this discussion last time was that you were being thoughtful and mindful and strategic. I think that we all were a little concerned that this was a square peg in a round hole. I appreciate the backstory on this. I appreciate your approach. So I feel like a lot of my concerns have been resolved.
I'll just say that, there was a misunderstanding prior to the last meeting, and our intent, and we'd offered to come and actually explain all of this and get in front of everybody and answer questions to alleviate any issues, and to also ask for participation, as well. Misunderstanding, I didn't come because I thought it wasn't necessary, that the letter and the questions that we'd answered were sufficient. Obviously, I made a mistake in not showing up, so I appreciate the opportunity to come back and get in front of you.
Thank you for taking the time. Is there anybody who'd like to make a motion?
Chris, if I could just.
Sorry, go ahead.
What I
Sorry,
would
John.
suggest, there's that suggested motion. I would just alter the last part where it says, after be approved, say, subject to the following conditions. One would be all agency reviews shall be received and deemed compliant prior to issuing a land use permit or building permit. 2, all signs are subject to sign permit application and review. And then 3, an updated site plan with parking lot and curbing improvements shall be submitted for administrative review. So basically those 3 conditions.
I'll make the motion that application SPR 2025-01 submitted by Frank Myers for a retail outlet and new entrance to the Grand Traverse Mall on parcel 05-021 2025-00 located at 3350 West South Airport Road be approved, subject to the condition that all agency reviews shall be received and deemed compliant prior to issuing of the land use permit and building permit, and all signs are subject to the sign permit, application and review, and
And
or
updated.
did I say was some of that not supposed to be on there? Was yours?
Well, those are just
Okay.
and an updated site plan with parking lot and curbing improvements shall be submitted for administrative review.
Good?
Yes.
Support.
All right, we have a motion from Robertson, support by Agustinelli. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed, same. Motion passes.
And thank you for the time and consideration. Appreciate it. Thank you both very much for coming.
We'll follow up with you on. All right, awesome. Thank you.
All right, folks, next on the agenda, new business, PD 2025-22, Gothier Site Multifamily Development Special Use Permit Introduction.
So this is a application on a site which you've seen a couple of times. There was initially a rezoning on this property that rezoned the entire property to multifamily. You also saw a conceptual plan review a while back on this property for multifamily development. And so now they are submitting the special use permit. The applicant is here with their team. And this is a proposal for a multifamily development. I did want to, just before I kind of get into this, point out, we do have a different form in reviewing this. So as I'm kind of going through this, I think I just realized it could be a summary piece.
So we attached,
So I got it.
You got it? Okay.
So basically what I was just looking for is that summary piece in terms of the number of units and so forth. But, so just so you know what you're looking at in this form is there's the, we try to reduce it so that there's only some key points that are there in the text. And then what we supplied you with is our completeness review checklist. And as opposed to kind of putting those in a narrative form, we've just provided you with that checklist. So on there, you can see all the things that we went through and either checked and they met those, or if there are some things that are insufficient that need to be provided for. In this particular case, there's only the one item is just the wetlands, which there has been a delineation, and you have an excerpt of that in your packet, but that's just it requires the verification from Eagle regarding that. So, and then we have the rest of the backup material, the application and so forth. And so that's where, so let us know what you think. This is kind of a work in progress. But getting back to the project, you see there's been a slight change in it in terms of the layout. But generally, you have 3 buildings there. And the applicant can provide some more information as they're going through and doing their presentation. But it's generally kind of conforms to what was initially put together on the conceptual review that you saw previously.
John, I was trying to recall, from that site layout with the 3 structures, were there more structures before? Or-
Yes, maybe if we'll just have them present
Great.
and go from there.
Thanks. So my name is Will Bartlett. I appreciate the time tonight. Appreciate the conceptual review last year. As Mr. Syke noted, during the conceptual review, I think this is generally consistent with what we presented. The one material deviation is previously we had 4 structures, and there was a 4th building that was in the northeast corner of the site, closest to the entrance. Our change was really mostly in response to a comment from, I believe, Mr. Racine in the conceptual review, who preferred that the buildings be set a little bit further back on the site. So we eliminated the fourth structure in that northeast corner and now only have 3 as they're shown on the site plan.
Did the number of units change?
Not materially. So we're looking at 149 total units now between the 3 buildings. Just to reset the table a little bit, very clear 3 buildings here. Building 1, which is the closest to the entrance and exit off of 31, is a 2-story structure. Buildings 2 and 3 are 3 stories for a total of 149 units. There is some clubhouse, fitness, leasing amenity space that's in the ground floor of building 1. But total of 149 units. I think it was appropriate that your previous meeting alongside the township board walk through the brownfield HTIF program that just got enacted in mid-2023. As you recall, we really appreciate the community support. We were the first project to go through the Brownfield Authority with that new housing TIF proposal. And as a reminder for what Ann said a couple of weeks ago, that housing TIF legislation is meant to produce workforce housing. At a state level, the maximum rent is 120% of area median income, or AMI, by bedroom count. At the county level, Grand Traverse County has taken that threshold down further to 100%. And our project in particular, there are some projects that say 20% of our units will meet that, or different percentages. 100% of our apartment homes we've committed to meet that threshold. If we don't get the subsidy, or we don't get the increment refunded to us. Our rents are audited on an annual basis by MISTA. So this is kind of core workforce housing designed to service, teachers, nurses, government employees, really the people that power everyday life in Grand Traverse County. So any questions or details you'd like to dig into, happy to answer any questions. If we get into civil engineering details, I'll ask Bob Vershey from Gosling Zubeck to chime in. That is not my area of deep expertise.
So there would be approximately how many apartment units then?
149.
149, okay. What is listed as offices here? What would offices, is that?
Leasing
lease
office,
space?
property manager.
Okay, for the tenants and for this property then?
So we would have clubhouse space, which is, co-working, TV, pool table, that type of thing, resident amenity space. And we'd also have an office for a community manager and a leasing agent that's separate for professional use, for our property managers' use. And then there would be a fitness area as well for the residents' use.
Yeah, I think one of the things that would be helpful is maybe if you could explain the grade change and some of the challenges with that.
I'll give the non-civil engineering overview, and then Bob can fill in on the details. So one of the reasons, and thank you for mentioning that, one of the reasons that we needed the tax increment financing support is, I'm sure you all drive past this site a lot. It's a 19-acre site almost, but there's really only 6 areas of buildable land in the center of the site. On the north portion of the site, it falls off, and same thing on the southeast portion. And really, there's a finger of land where the buildings and the parking area is, that's the upland area and buildable. And so when Ann a couple weeks ago talked about how oftentimes brownfield financing, one of the more common uses is site work, that's exactly what we're dealing with here, because there's a significant amount of grade change. Anything you want to add to that?
Sure, I'll, Bob Shave with Gosling Zuback, just to kind of expound on the grading issues on the site. So it has some topography that we're challenged to develop on, and so the two buildings on the, west end there, on the higher side, are that's the high point of the site where it's, flatter up there, so we were able to maintain a gentler grade and grade out the parking area and provide accessible areas for the residents to come and go and park and use the site. It also facilitates the fire departments in maneuvering through the site up there. As we come back down towards 31, that's where we're steepening it a little bit, or we have to contend with the topography, and so our grades there are a little bit, they're approximately 4% along that stretch of the road. So that's kind of why we ended up with a two-story building, and it's kind of offset a little bit farther away from the parking lot. If you'll notice, we have to get a path down there and some stairs and to provide the sidewalk. So that's how that kind of laid out, contending with the grade in that area. So, and then we continue down towards 31 and the approach for entering and exiting the site. And then we're able to fit all the stormwater runoff retention or detention areas in that pocket between the lower parking level and the highway. Or actually, that's McRae Hill where it peels off that way.
So how many years are you going to be capturing the taxes on this? Do you know?
Yeah, it's 20 years, and it's also a 20-year rent restriction period.
Okay.
If I could just follow up on that, the issue related to the grade. One of the things that we're looking at the site, you'll notice on there, it'll call a cellar floor. So if you look on the site plan, it'll say the number of stories plus cellar. If you look at the building elevations, sheet A301, you'll see a front elevation, building elevation on the bottom of the page, and then the rear building elevation on the top of that elevation. So just to know that essentially kind of be some like walkout type units on one side. So on the front side, you'll see 3 stories. If you were to be on the back side, you'll see 4. So basically, it's like a walkout apartment building. So that's just I just want to make sure you understood what it has that reference. The zoning ordinance has a provision that allows for this, and it calls that, the way it kind of calls it in the ordinance is as a cellar, is the way it's defined, just in terms of that walkout area. So there was some concern or some issue related to building height, but building height is is determined on the front of the building and not necessarily the rear of the building. So this would meet the ordinance requirements. Plus, it allows for the development to work with the terrain on the site, which is significant.
So am I seeing this right, that building 1 is 15 feet lower than 2 and 3? Finished floor?
Yeah, so it's one less story.
No, but the finished floor, the main, isn't that the FFV, finished floor elevation, which is your main first floor?
Yes.
And it's 50, is that 58,
Yeah,
and the other one's 73?
Yes, yeah.
So you're dropping 15 feet down there, you're down in a hole pretty good with it, and then that's why you have that sidewalk, but how many steps are going down to it from them, that parking lot?
I didn't count the steps, but there's some, it's probably 10 feet or so off of the,
It's 10 feet lower than the parking lot, that first, which that don't seem right to me, that it's.
well, it's part of, the highest part of that, because, so as you come in and as you come around the curve, all that sidewalk is pretty much at the grade level. So the handicap spaces that are parked
Okay.
there, so that's all accessible, ADA compliant. So you can park right in that area and walk into straight off the curb walk, and get on the sidewalk and get in the building. So as you come farther up the hill, those parking spaces, it's still ADA compliant, or the grades meet along the curb walk are less than 5%, which is it's a comfortable sidewalk, so you could walk down in the building that way, or the stairs are another option.
So does that parking lot in front of that building one at 5%, and the doors of the cars and stuff,
No,
that's kind of,
it's less than that. It's at 4. It's in that area.
do they work, does that work okay, or?
That is about the limit you'd want to park on the side. We looked at that, so we did some research to make sure we weren't doing anything that was not right, but it is. I mean, you are parked on a gradual incline, so, but it is doable that way.
Just wondering if an old guy like me could open the door, okay, with push it uphill enough.
Park there.
But yeah, thanks for pointing out the cellars, John. You didn't clue me in with the grade change or the grading up there, but that is, so that whole concept that was part of how we were able to reallocate building units and get rid of one building, essentially.
I saw on here about the trip generations that this is expected. Any concerns about people having to make a left on the 31 there heading into town? That's cars are moving fast there. What does that look like?
We had Fishback perform a traffic analysis for us, which you've read, and they reviewed it with MDOT, and they were comfortable with having those turning movements there, without additional controls or anything like that, so.
One thing we've done in the past when we've had traffic impact reports is we have done a peer review requirement. We've done this with Seven Brew. We did it with the Beta facility on Hammond. So we have not suggested or recommended that because I'm not really sure what the outcome of that would be in this particular case. But we have done that in the past where there's, and we've worked with OHM to look and do a peer review of that traffic impact report and see if there's anything involved. Certainly the review by MDOT kind of gave us a certain level of comfort on that. This is kind of it is a very busy area. There are still some breaks in that, but I think one of our main concerns was its proximity to Hartman Road and the turning movements there. But in talking with MDOT, apparently this with the addition of the taper strip that they would put on the southbound, that's all that's being proposed in terms of improvements.
Is there any talk with MDOT on a light at Hartman?
I don't think they, I think when we've had conversations with them about the corridor, I think the concern there is the proximity to South Airport, the traffic signal there. Because I know when we were talking about the bridge, Hartman-Hammond Bridge, that was one of the things they, were really trying to do is just to realign Hartman so it's farther south and get some spacing between that intersection or potential intersection and South Airport Road.
Any other thoughts? I did have a couple myself. Bob, I am struck by the complexity of the grading plan that you and your staff worked on. It's quite the sardine can of fitting this and making it work. It's quite impressive. I am interested in the south edge of the upper parking lot area in front of building 2 and 3. Does that south edge of the parking lot have a curb and gutter on it? And the reason I'm asking is because I noticed that along the area in front of building 2, it's a fairly steep slope at 2-on-1, or 1-on-2 rather. And so I was just thinking of, and I couldn't tell if there was a curb there that would keep somebody from necessarily rolling off the parking lot down that slope.
I believe there is a, on the south edge, I do not believe that's a curb and gutter. That's building 2. Yeah.
So you might want to revisit that.
Sure.
And then also, I know that our township engineer will look at the plans. We might want to consider some more vigorous soil earth retention in some of those steeper slopes areas in order to make sure that that slope stays in place. I mean, clearly you worked really hard not to have to put any retaining walls in. But I would just be concerned about.
We have a little bit, and it's by the building 1, I think. But.
Sure. Yeah, like I said, it's really impressive, great job, but certainly there's a couple of different steep slopes in there that may warrant some more aggressive approaches, but I don't think that stops us from moving on to a public hearing. Did you lose? I'm sorry.
As I say, I don't think, we haven't fully developed our soil erosion plan yet, so.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
Sorry.
Were there units that were lost with the loss of the building, or did you were able to maintain the same number of units total?
No, we were pretty much able to maintain the same number of units total. Really, the limitation on the number of units on this site gets back to the limitations with topography, but then also candidly the parking ratio at a minimum 1.5. So I think the number of stalls we have currently shown is something like 228, and even if we wanted to, the max density that would be allowed in R3 under this size of site, I think, is 197. Candidly, we would like to build 197 because for a number of different reasons, but
Sure.
We're parking limited for the most part.
Okay. Well, that's all I have. Look forward to going to public hearing on it. Anybody else have thoughts, or anybody ready to make a motion?
I'll make,
I see that water and sewer obviously would have to be worked on to get to the.
Yeah, we're planning public water and sewer. I'm happy to hear the positive progress on the water issue, so.
just getting started.
Yeah, we're gonna hit that one hard here.
Okay, I'll make the motion that application SUP 2025-01 submitted by Gosling Zubek Engineering Services, Inc. for a special use permit for an apartment complex at parcel 05-021-054-00 be accepted and scheduled for a public hearing for the April 9th, 2025 regular Planning Commission meeting.
Support?
Motion by Augustinelli, support by Klein. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same. Motion passes.
Thank you.
Thanks.
I'll let Andy know. Appreciate it.
All right. Next on our agenda, we have another opportunity for public comment. If anybody would like to step up and, please. Just state your name and, I'm blanking. Just name and address. Thank you. It's past 8 o'clock, that's why.
My name is Emily Fitzgerald, and I live on Center Street here in Traverse City. I am a social work student with NMC, and so we actually have a project due. One of the topics was housing, of course. We all love this topic. But we're looking to see what the local townships as well as the city itself is doing for affordable housing for those of us that actually live in the community, support the community, help keep the community going. So I guess basically just if there is anything Garfield Township in particular is doing to help with this issue.
They can give you a list.
Yeah,
have
it's
probably
quite a
most-
bit, actually.
We have one,
This
yeah,
project.
right
Please,
here,
yeah, share
the one
that.
you just did.
Here. Yeah.
But we have several.
Okay.
Between between different pilot projects, I think we can
Yeah.
provide a summary of some information. Yeah.
Okay,
you
yeah,
don't
that-
hear much about Garfield Township in terms of housing, but
Sure.
there's a lot of apartment complexes similar to this. Some of them, for instance, in this case, they are receiving some assistance to keep the rents down. This one is targeted for what we call workforce, so it's a certain, kind of middle of the road area median income, but we also have several pilots throughout the township. I think the board has approved 15 of those, and those
Okay.
are low to moderate income apartment situations that are in place right now. There's a lot of other different types of housing. We have supportive housing, we have a homeless shelter, we have a wet house. There's a lot of varied types of housing that are throughout the Garfield. We'll continue, and we'll expect to see more multifamily developments in particular.
Sure.
We do have, in the case of the Traverse City Housing Commission project on Lafreniere Road next to the Beta facility, there's a site there for some Habitat for Humanity, has 15 home sites to be located there next to the apartments which are currently under construction.
Sure.
And so it's quite a mix of both market rate and someone that have subsidy at different levels going on. And just over there, there's an apartment complex that will be going in behind, there's the Marathon Station at Garfield and Hammond, and there's the space behind there. There's a apartment complex that will be going in there. We also have quite a bit of senior living options as well. Lafreniere Road, if you've been up there, you see the village at Lafreniere Road. You see the first of 4 phases that will be built. That's like a 3-story congregate living, which half of that is market rate, half of that is subsidized. They'll be building another complex like that, along with an assisted living complex and then independent cottages. So I know people complain about the traffic on Lafreniere. There's going to be a lot more housing up there, but that is an area that is in good proximity to services closer within the city and along South Airport Road. So that's kind of how that area was planned.
John?
So,
Perhaps maybe you could exchange some email addresses and point the group at some of the I think there are plenty of documents. Our master plan speaks to some of those issues.
Okay.
In the text of it, the guys did a great job of recognizing a lot of what John was just talking about. And I think if you look at some of our year-to-year statistics, you can see that the township has been providing a lot of housing. In particular, we haven't been providing it. Developers have been building it in our community, and we've been approving it and making it possible within our zoning ordinance and whatnot. But yeah, there's lots of information available, and the guys ought to be able to point you at some good resources.
Sure. Okay.
Good question and interest.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for cutting me off, Chris. I could have gone all night.
Sorry. Well, you get excited about it because we don't sit here and say, "So, John, tell us about all that you guys have been doing." Any other public comment? All right, with that, we'll close public comment and move on to other business, the item A being vice chair election. And I understand our potential candidate for vice chair, who we proposed to elect in absentia a month ago, is in absentia again. I did speak with John. He had indicated, well, first of all, is there anyone with interest in taking on the role?
I can't do it.
You and Molly cannot do it. Well, I will say this. John had indicated he'd be willing to do it for 1 year. But then after that, he'd like someone to step up and take on the role. I mean, I can promise that I'll do my best to be here as often as I can be, which is generally most of the time, except the end of the month, which is spring break and my family's traveling, which will be another issue we'll discuss. But I certainly would like one of you guys, Kara, to think about maybe taking the role on next year. So,
The honeymoon's over, Kara.
yeah. So, I think let's go ahead and, I feel comfortable having talked to John. If anybody would like to, I'm not going to nominate him, though. If somebody would like to nominate him, we can put him into the position.
I'll nominate John Racine
I'll
for
support
vice chair.
that.
All right, we have a motion from Klein, support by Robertson, to appoint John Racine as the vice chair. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same. All right, motion passes. Okay, moving on from other business to items for our next agenda. Our next agenda being March 26th, and I know that I will be absent in,
I think John will
be
be,
absent.
and we'll have three, with Joe is going to be absent and John is going to be, so I think with three absents, I think we make sense to kind of cancel that, which would we need a motion, and then we would just have a follow-up at our subsequent study session in April.
there's nothing pressing, right?
Now,
Okay.
I'll make
Everybody
the
comfortable with that?
motion to cancel the meeting on March 26th.
Support.
Yes.
Motion by Robertson, support by Klein. Any further discussion? All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same. Motion passes. All right, so then, these will just be issues for our April
Study session.
study session.
and we'll also add in the East Bay Township plan that you received notice this evening. That will be included for that study session as well.
Okay. And then on our, I guess you probably don't have any strong ideas, other than our public hearing for the Gothier development. Anything else likely to be on the agenda?
There's some
You're aware of.
potential ones that we've had some pre-application meetings this week, so we're anticipating some submittals if they can get them in quickly. Since we kind of have a light agenda, I think we can process some either introduction or something else of what we get, but we'll see until we actually receive those.
Okay.
Mhm.
All right, well,
I'd make a motion, we adjourn.
Oh, I was waiting
Bob,
for
I
that.
said I wanted to try and drag the meeting out, so you missed the hockey game. We're adjourned.